notice this is Mr. 45. Okay, remember, he doesn't return until the new era manifests on earth. That's why he's not here just yet. Just yet. But it's really awesome how his cycle, because he's, remember, it's the trumpet. What is his job? He's sounding the trumpet for the return of Christ. That's his goal. And you'll see everything around him, which you'll see in a minute, rotates around at 7. It's incredible. So these are things that I got this past week, are just really awesome. So if you go to the next, so he's first up, he was born June 14th, because it's all based on his birth. June 14th, 1946, on the blood moon in Israel. Okay, so now let's go to page 22, and this is where it gets fun. Okay, so look at this chart here. So you got June 14th, 1946 on the left. 700 days later, not 699, no, 700 days later, to the precise mark, you've got the state of Israel. So at 700 days is May 14th, 1948. Israel was proclaimed a state as prophesied by Ezekiel 2,500 years ago, to the exact day. And then if you add another 70 years, this is crazy. Add another 70 years to the precise day, May 14th, 2018. Just 3 years back. The U.S. embassy opens in Jerusalem.
Crazy.
See, like, this is just mathematical perfection. So this is like the handprint of God. Is my point. It's all everything. It's all this timeline. Because remember, God is perfect. His timelines are perfect. This is a point of mathematical perfection. Well, impossible.
Yeah, I was going to just say, we talked off the line. I didn't want people to miss that. We talked off the air that I kept saying, why do we need these numbers? Why do these add up to these specific things? What are we supposed to learn? And basically, that's what we were concluding, or you were concluding, is that God was basically just shouting, this is me. He's basically saying, this is how you'll know this is me. You'll see
I am real.
Yeah. You'll see these exact numbers over and over. That's how you'll know this is me. That's kind of my words.
That is exactly the truth of that. And so now this leads us into a very important part of the smaller letters at the bottom here. I want to read this to you. So this is the Ezekiel prophecy, chapter 37. Your viewers later on can click the link. It'll take you to it. You can read chapter 37. But it's called the Valley of Dry Bones. So this prophecy was therefore fulfilled. It started in 70 A.D., and it went all the way to 1948, as the dry bones are now coming back to life. Okay, so that was the Ezekiel prophecy. Now, the second part of it, so this is called the Ezekiel War. The last prophecy of Ezekiel is chapter 38 and 39. The link is there if you viewers want to check it out later. References a worldwide war that kills 1/3 of the world population. And that's described in Revelation 9:13 as well. Through 21. However, just before the war, I want to add this in, just before the war, millions upon millions of believers are caught up, they disappear, and meet Christ in the clouds as he returns to first judge and then rule for 1,000 years in what will be called the millennial reign. And that is what we discussed in the early part of the presentation, how the 4,000 years, 2,000 years, and the 421, adding up to the mathematical number of 7. And so that's how this is all playing out. Now, if we go to page 23, continuation of page 23 is a continuation of the calculation. So remember, the prior slide had 700 days, 770 years, but didn't have months. So if you add 70 months, a very, very important time point coming in the future here is going to, with relation to Israel, will be March 14th, 2024. So something potentially is supposed to be, just kind of give you and your viewers some time points into the future. Next slide, which we discussed, and I know you have a handful of questions on, was page 24. Now, for your viewers, the essence of this is really important. This is, like Steve and I spoke even last interview, this is not astrology, okay? It states in Genesis 1:14. So I want to preface before we get to this slide. Genesis 1:14 states, and God said, let there be light, and in the fulfillment of the heavens to divide the day from night, and let there be for signs and for seasons. Okay, what we're seeing here, there's many more references with relation to signs and seasons. These are signs in the heavens. We're not supposed to know about them, but they're all there. Okay, and that's why Revelation 12 sign. Just Revelation 12 clearly, read Revelation 12. It outlines what's supposed to happen 2,000 years before it happened in the heavens, and it exactly happened on September 23rd, 2017. That was a sign in the heaven. Okay, so what this is on page 24 is eclipses are the key to calculating May 26 as the flower blood moon, as prophesied by Hank Kuhneman. And the crazy part was, you can. I had interviews and videos that I did in April and in March of this year, and I was discussing how May 26th is supposed to be an important time point for the world. And then lo and behold, I think right on or a few days before or after, Hank Kuhneman, an incredible prophet, right? He's talking about the flower blood moon. So you can go back to Hank's prophecies about the flower blood moon. Well, why is that important? Because this is the best part of it. Mayflower.
Wow.
Mayflower, right? And so if you go back and study, when did the Mayflower arrive? 400 years ago. How long was Israel in bondage? 400 years.
Wow.
So it's incredible. And so so the eclipse is basically just the math calculations, again, shows the mathematical perfection of God, right? It's just God's footprint. When God is hidden in plain, actually, he's hidden in the details, but you got to look, and it says in the Bible, it says it's the glory of kings to search out a matter.
Yeah. And
we're just searching it out.
Yeah, and I had asked Bo off the air, I said, explain to us, why do we need to know that there's 694 days on both sides of this specific date, and then 1904 on both sides, and so he clarified these are eclipse to eclipse. Hank had given that word about May 26th, which you had already put on your chart. If I understand right, you had already had May 26th as a date. Yes, before that. And so when Hank gave that, you already had that date down when he said the Mayflower, or what did he say, the flower?
Blood moon.
Blood moon. So
flower blood moon.
So and I said your point was the reason it's you're pointing out these exact dates between these eclipses and that central point is this God's basically shouting and saying, "This is me," right?
Yes. Exactly. And then the crazy part was, but I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, and saying like, and what's next, right? And so I'm driving the car one day, and I'm hearing protractor, Bo. Use a protractor. I'm like, what? So I hear I don't hear God doesn't. I get words. I guess I get words. He gets protractor. It looks like I got the word cankered. Okay, right. Protractor. So I'm like, protractor. He goes, protractor, May 26th. I'm like, okay, I can do. I got that. So then we go to the next. Actually, hold that thought on protractor. Just if you look at this page on the right hand side, there is a prophecy by Shane Warren, and it talks about how the Earth crossed once, going to cross again on May 8th of 2024. So the next slide on page 28, if you go to the next slide 28, it says the prophecy was by Shane Warren is they have divided my land, now I will divide theirs. And so don't be 2024. I'm just. On a side note, is getting into a very powerful time as we head into 2025. So, so don't be surprised if we have massive earthquakes some point here in that time or into 2025, late 24 into 25. That basically that might change the direction of the flow of the Mississippi. So massive world changes start to trigger late in about 3-ish years. I just want to touch base on that. And then now let's go back to page 26 or to page, and then that'll answer back to the word protractor. Okay, so now we're at the protractor. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is beyond crazy, but again, it's God's footprint. It's his showing he's in control of it all. Back to what I said initially. Fear not, God the Father is in control of it all. And you want to see perfect examples? Check this out. This is mathematical perfection. So on the right side of the page, you got May 26th, center of end times, based on the Mayflower, flower blood moon. You with me, Steve, on the right side there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then we go up 40 days, 40 nights, And Hank Kuhneman of the prophesied at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, stating something grand is about to take place. There will be a new sound, a shift in the nation now. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, and upon 45. Okay, but remember, in this that May 26th is in the heavens. We saw the new era. So God prophetically spoke through his prophets, let there be a new era. Hasn't manifested yet here on earth because there's time between the two.
And let me just clarify, Bo, when God showed you the protractor, eventually you figure out through what the Lord's doing is that at the 90, that every degree is a day, right? So 90 degrees is 90 days. That's where you got, that's why you put July 4 up there at 40 degrees because it's 40 days.
40 days, 40 nights. Like, it's crazy. And so we keep going up the protractor in terms of degrees or days, and we get to August 15th. Well, incredibly, 50 years ago to the exact day, on August 15th of 1971, Nixon takes the United States off the gold standard. So it stops the convertibility of gold into the dollar. To the exact day, that was the fall of Kabul. You can click the link, verified. Everything is verifiable. I put links on everything. So everything's a verifiable link. So that happened on precisely August 15th to the precise day of 50 years. Now, why is that so important? Because a jubilee is 50. It's a golden jubilee. Now, a 50 is very powerful within the Bible. But what happened was when they detached it, they stopped the convertibility of gold into the dollar, all right? What happened on that precise time point, Steve, is they created their own money. Does that make sense? They no longer were using God's money. They created their own money. So powerful, so important to understand. Because now it's no longer God's money, it's their money. Their system, everything theirs. They separated themselves from God financially on that date. And so that started the fall of Kabul. If we get to August 24th, so 90 days, 90 degrees, we're at tipping point. Now we're talking Goliath. So on that specific day, Russia signs an agreement with Saudi Arabia as a military pact. The United States had one with Saudi Arabia. We discussed this last time. The point being was you don't need two superpowers to back you. So in other words, the U.S. superpower contract is becoming or became null and void. They just didn't announce it. And then we go, so that was on that specific date. Now we start tipping point. Goliath's beginning to fall. And so what's the fall of Goliath? Well, it relates directly to the Evergrande bond debacle, which started on Rosh Hashanah, the start of the new year. It started precisely September 6th. Click the link. It's right there. And they have to halt trading. Now, Evergrande, and like I mentioned before, are there bonds that go across the entire world and the entire real estate market across the whole world. So this ultimately, like we said the word last, you clarified, like I said, nuclear event, not a real nuclear event, but massive financial event that destroys and, relating to Black Horse, third seal of the financial system that we know. Now, and then we've got the prophecy, they fall in fall. And so we're now in fall, September 22nd. Then on October, again, 124, which is 10, 24, 421, 124. On that precise day, you can click the link there. Okay, you don't do it, but that precise day, Evergrande failed to make their $38 million bond payment. On the precise day. Wow. This wasn't the day before or after. We're talking precise day. They failed to make their first bond payment. And now we head into next week, Monday, the 22nd. Goliath should trip and fall at his face. The financial system. So something potentially could, should, may happen here early next week. Or, again, I'm just doing the math calculations. So I don't know what's coming. All these things are secrets. But the point being is next week is 180 degrees, 180 days from the Mayflower appearance calculation. Okay? So that's the exciting part about what's about to happen. But we're waiting for the new era to be birthed. And it could be birthed as early as, because remember, we read the James 5, he kept saying, my harvesters. That's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's a week from today, Steve. On the 8th, so today's the 18th. Thanksgiving's the 25th, 1 week from today. So does something crazy happen? I wouldn't, does the impossible appear or occur, the glory? There's a mathematical time point that indicates something potentially huge is supposed to happen as early as starting sometime as early as next week. So we wait and we watch, but the next that cycle doesn't finish until at least the first couple days of December. That takes me into then that would relate to 45 because remember God, he's the builder, so we could so between that takes us all the way 180 degrees again. From November 22nd, 180 days or degrees takes us to May 21st, 2022, and Goliath would be flat upside down on his head. So huge financial problems, 180 degrees from August 24th would be February 20th of 2022. And that takes us back to the numbers 3, 6, and 9 being very powerful numbers. So November would be 3, February would be 6, and 9 would be completion in May of next year. So let's see what happens. But it's really exciting because we are so close, and it truly rhymes with what the prophets are saying, how even Emmanuel Johnson was speaking about the next 60 days on your last show that he was with you.
Yeah, very good.
It's all. Yeah, and that takes us to the next slide, which we've got November. Basically, the United States of the Covenant. We're supposed to change direction in November. We're supposed to go in the opposite direction. We went the wrong way last year, so we're supposed to go now turn and go in the right direction. Here, your viewer can read that, but that's from last show. 28 again talks about the new era, and so we're about to see the greatest spiritual harvest in human history. This is the first harvest starting next week. What does that mean? I don't know. But math points to next week, 3 days before the harvest, Thanksgiving. These dates all pile in on one another, the 22nd and the 23rd. So we'll see what that means. We talked about page 29. We talked last night. Page 29 was Lazarus. We spoke about that, about darkness coming. So we might see, how the United States is supposed to die first before it is reborn, because the United States dies to be a beacon of light for all the world to see. Okay, so the United States needs to die to then become a beacon of light for all the world.
So obviously that's an oxymoron. You're sounding like something that we love is dying so that we can be alive. So you're just saying whatever this death is going to result in life, right?
Yes, the death results in a birth. Yeah. As Donna stated, it is about to be birthed. So it being the new kingdom is about to be birthed, but first it has to die. So it's a massive, huge transition point with potentially some time of darkness in between. So it's really critical to make sure people are positioned with some extra food, some extra water, but basically just be prepared. So when these events, whatever happens, okay, if you're prepared, it's just. It's coming. It's the ones that aren't prepared are the ones that just go crazy and can't believe what's happening around them, right? So it's just important to, God's a very, does nothing before first speaking through his servants, the prophets. And on numerous shows of your show, Steve, the prophets have said to prepare.
Yes,
about it. You've even had a special show that you did about that too.
And for anyone watching, all that means is make sure you go to the grocery store and get stuff to last you for a lot longer than a couple days, maybe a week or two. We just don't know. And the whole thing about the U.S. dying and then some light being born, there's a whole lot of, this is not prophetic necessarily, but a whole lot of researchers saying that we may come back as the Republic of the United States, which is what we had before President Grant signed it away. And I think it was 1871. He took us off of the Republic and made us a corporation. It may well be that corporation dies on the date you're referring to, and the Republic is born. I don't know if that's what's in your heart or not.
And I can't argue with that because that makes complete sense. It's like my wife even says, what does Satan do? He gets in the middle of everything and corrupts it.
Yeah.
So the United States was founded on something special. Yeah. And we had a covenant with God. It's when evil gets in the middle of it and corrupts corrupts what
Yeah.
was created. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately, what you described. It was a corruption of what was created actually with a good heart. And that's, where things have taken us to.
Mhm.
That's it.